Seth and these two agents and how it came to be with you, I'd be grateful.
My background, very briefly, very general.
Take your time.
Military, second half of that career, successful in intelligence community, maintained that position, custodial role, consultant, mostly in domestic foreign affairs. So I came to be contacted from the Justice Department over the years.
Okay, bear with us one second. I'm gonna let the press, we're just gonna reposition here better for sound quality. Bear with us, Luke. Bear with us, sorry. I don't know this from. We're dealing with technical issues here. If you can all maybe crowd around here, that would be great. We'll have a huddle. We'll have a team huddle here. We're doing this the old-fashioned way. We got you on a speaker on a cell phone. All right, I think everybody's close enough. Okay, Luke, go right ahead.
All right. First, let me say thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Burton, Mr. Whalen. Also, there's been quite a few people in line recently concerned over our safety and offering their prayers. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
That's our pleasure.
People involved with it. I knew Seth Rich-Witness. I've never met him, never dealt with him. I hadn't known the name until late 2016 when these people were bragging about what they've done. They got away with everything. And this is accumulation of multiple conversations held with other people in front of me or in front of me. And people I don't even know. The three people that night, they had been surveilling him because of this computer breach. They knew it. They knew what he had done. It was too close for comfort. They believed that they were under investigation. They had monitored quite a few things. They were in emails and the computer systems. And when this happened, it set off all their bells and whistles. They wanted to know immediately who he was, what he was doing. This was a large, big meeting. So went in, Seth Rich-Witness went in and grabbed a bunch of emails.
And tell us briefly, not to interrupt you, Luke, if you could, tell us just briefly, and of course no names, but tell us about the backgrounds of these. One is DEA, one is ATF, am I correct?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about these guys to the extent you can, and if you can't, I understand, and then tell us how you initially came upon this information.
Well, they were bragging about it. So that's when I first heard the name. Didn't know anything about that side. They were doing, they're bragging about it. They bragged about it prior to this before the name came up. And talked through it. I did some research, found out what they were talking about. My channels. And the details, triggered most of this. They have details about what happened like leading up to it, the actual act, what occurred right afterwards, and why. It wasn't hard for me to figure out why. Involved with computers, emails, whatever manipulation it is. So when he did this, it was a breach something. Whether or not he gave anything to WikiLeaks, I have no idea. So this was intangible if it actually happened. But going into the system, they had control of it, set off everything. And he grabbed that many, they assumed it was an investigation for approximately a week to 2 weeks prior to the act itself, the murder. He was being surveilled to one degree or another. So they knew he had this thumb drive that they wanted.
Let me ask you, Luke, not to interrupt you again, why would he have had that thumb drive on him late at night? He was killed in the early morning hours of July 10th. Any sense of why it would be on him at that hour? That's a question I'm sure a lot of the press will have.
Sorry. According to him, he didn't know what it was. According to them, he always had it on.
Okay.
He wouldn't leave it at home, work, anything. He always kept it with him.
Okay.
Which to them necessitated a physical confrontation to get it quickly.
Do you know what happened that night? What do we know about what happened and the nature of the shooting? Do we know anything about the act that night? the actual act?
There were 3 people involved. 2 you mentioned, mother.
Oh, there was another. Okay, so we have there's a DEA guy, there's an ATF guy. Who was the third? Briefly, to the extent you can say.
Definitely probably civilian or same person. An ex-agent and a friend of theirs.
I see. Now let me ask you this question, if I may. Tell us about, a lot of people here, we're local in Arlington, which is, we're roughly where the spot where I was shot. We're about 1,000 yards from where I was shot by Kevin Doherty. Tell us, what was the relationship with Doherty with these people?
According to him, it's hard to believe he said he had a super secret background. And then this didn't play out well in people who actually did. It's too easy to check. But it was always a different story with him. He was an ex-agent, Department of Energy, and I believe he also claimed the Marine Service. But he was there, go for hang around. They sent him for the dirty work, the jobs he would do. He would do any of them, just hoping that they would put him where getting hired on one agency or another. So.
See, of course, that's the link, that piece of evidence there, my feeling, Luke, is that puts together, this is just my, just guessing, but that's a piece of evidence, I think, I'm sure the press will have a lot of questions in this regard, that puts together a lot of this, because, you know, the question would be, did Doherty, just because of the dispute I had with him, get so crazy that he shot me, or, well, obviously anybody who's pulling a trigger is half nuts, but, or, did he have some motive, and was he a plant? We don't know. Any insights you might have on that?
Your assault?
Yes. Or how the whole thing fits together, if at all.
Whether they manipulated him in some fashion, we did that every day. People would set him out for the dumbest stuff. He would do it. They'd be behind his back. They just laugh. He was never going to get a job.
Right.
But they would let on to that.
Let me ask you this, can you give us a sense, now you came upon this information, can you give us, and I know you have to be very careful, can you give us a sense of just this, how you came across this, in broad strokes, the type of people you heard this from, just in very broad strokes, whatever you're comfortable with.
Very well, true. There was a group of people who worked for Rod Rosenstein, Baltimore.
When Rosenstein was U.S. Attorney in Maryland.
Correct. And he was there for quite a while, of course.
Yes.
And they were, this was his, I'm sorry, this was his dirty trick squad. These were all people who owed their careers, many times their freedom, to him looking the other way or helping him out in cases when they were compromised. They're all dirty cops, one degree or another. And he exploited that a lot.
What do you think is, do you know anything about why Rosenstein, what was his concern? Do we know anything about his involvement? I mean, did he discuss the shooting of Seth with these people? Can you shed some light on what may have been his involvement, if any?
He was not the person who authorized it, and he was certainly their protection on the other end. He was their protection for everything. This is why they felt open for me to discuss it, to brag about it. It wasn't until later when he received his appointment as Deputy AG and the shine was off a bit that they felt that, their protection was waning, and they started coming back around, say anything, who knows this, did you repeat anything, that type of situation for their exposure. So, if he was not the one who authorized it, then he certainly knew about on the other side was their protection, and it was because of his activities that occurred.
What else, other salient points, what else should we know about this? All of this?
Other details of the night, as you talked about, there are people involved over Russia. There's also that this was Hillary Clinton and Ross Schultz, the Democrats, who had killed all the people involved, shooters, fraud, of course. People planned to surveillance, they're all Republican. So it wasn't. When you say dynamic gun, it's why it's necessarily Republicans either.
Let me ask you this.
Their own control.
Let me ask you this, if you don't mind. Tell us more about the thumb drive and what was the business. Tell us, if you can talk more about the thumb drive Seth was carrying and a little more about why these two agents and others, or three, were preoccupied with the thumb drive. The press will probably have questions.
All right. This goes back many years. This goes back at least 15 years. Began to initiate information sharing. It's actually information control. DOJ. They started just manipulating cases. When you have privileged information, you can withhold some selective prosecution and make a case go one way or the other. Benefits you, your friends. There's also next step up where you could share that information for personal or professional profit. And moving to the computer side, where back just prior to Ms. Clinton ran for election the first time for President Obama, they got into the computer systems heavily then. Within 3 months of her servers being up, her private servers, they were already in there, copy everything listening, and anyone who logged in or used it, moved to that system, just spread from there. They could monitor everything. They were initially just monitoring and copying emails. They then began to alter them, delay them, alter them, change classification levels. And the experts they had were extremely gifted at doing this. This is something that they did from their job. They had no resources of government disposal. Well, this continued throughout the Obama White House period. And then, as everyone thought Ms. Clinton was going to win this previous election, so Rod Rosenstein pulled out all the stops. He knew that they have a certain animosity, they don't like each other.
Rosenstein and Hillary Clinton.
Correct. They have a history of being more personal and behind closed doors. It's just very nasty about it.
Was he, in other words, is your feeling that Rosenstein may have been trying to curry favor with the person he believed would be the next president?
No, because Rosenstein's control is on both sides.
No.
They want to control everything. The law is the altar he bows down to, and you force everyone to do so.
I see.
He wanted to ensure survival. They have been manipulating or getting dirt or planting dirt, manufacturing it against the threes. So they call them the threes. These are Title III judges. Judges appointed under Article 3 Constitution, Supreme Court, federal judges, things like that. There aren't many. There's about 120 total. And you control them, or the majority of them. Many of them don't know just how much they can compromise, or that they can compromise at all. They couldn't get to one of them, they get to a family member. Well, keep it quiet, but you always want. This network they built really got bad in 2006 when the National Security Division of the DOJ came into play. And they got access to a much wider thing than became common practice for cases in any agency, NSA, anything, to be brought to a national security lawyer to discuss proceed or proceed this way or that way. And they got so much more information. We had to use it to their own survival, their own benefit, their own objectives. And they didn't care anything else as much as they wanted control. They wanted control of the DOJ and the law. Bring the president down, the lawyer, the judge, and control. So that was the control they were seeking.
Why don't we do this? At this point, I'm sure everybody has questions. Let's open it up to questions from the floor for Luke.
Great. Should I get up to the phone or can you hear
Please,
me?
if you don't mind.
Sure.
It'd be helpful.
Hi Luke, how you doing? Will Summer at the Daily Beast. I guess the most obvious question is why should anyone believe what you're saying? Like you're not here, we've seen no evidence that you're at all connected to law enforcement or, no, I mean you could literally be any guy that, you know, Jack might have put someone up to this. Like what is the proof we have that any of this is true? Thanks.
That's certainly not understandable. Evidence has been turned over. Testimony has been given. People who have evidence have been polygraphed by this testimony, so that has been checked there. And there's a lot more available. It's just boiled down. If it goes beyond what you might get off of open source and put together an interesting story, there's the times, the dates, the places, the addresses, individual players in different countries, the bank routing numbers, where they laundered money, it's all available. It's just,
Luke, let me ask you this, is there anything more, for Will's purposes here, just following up on his question, is there anything more, and if there isn't, I understand, is there anything more in broad strokes, in the very broadest of strokes at least, you could tell us about the people from whom you got the core information about this? Is there anything you can tell us?
the people involved that night, 2 of the 3, the computer expert that ultimately ended up with the thumb drive, and it also came from another side, someone else in the periphery that night. It was able to corroborate some things through a mutual friend. But the people actually involved in the act were discussing.
Is Luke a
Other
federal
questions?
agent? Luke, are you a federal agent?
The question, Luke, is the press is asking, are you a federal agent?
No, it was more on the intelligence side, I will say more.
He said, no, he worked in intelligence.
Was the thumb drive inside the Seth's watch?
Question is, was the thumb drive inside Seth's watch, to your knowledge?
Is that why it was? Yeah, they said it was ripped all the time.
No, it had been barred in that. I didn't see the physical thumb drive itself. It wasn't just an SD card out. It was the whole thumb drive in the pocket.
The reason I think the reporter asked that question, his watch was torn that night. His watch was ripped, torn, and so that's, I think that's the genesis.
Right, there was a rumor that there was a secret compartment and you can't have watches with those. So I just wondered.
Why are you talking to a room full of media and not talking to investigators with the
Yeah.
DC Police Department right now?
I can answer that if you don't mind.
I'd like him to answer it first. Is that okay, Fred?
Sure, Luke, the question was, why are you talking, Scott from Channel 7
He
asked.
doesn't know the genesis of what we've been trying to do. We've approached people in the Rayburn building. They have access to this information. They just haven't acted on it. He doesn't know any of that. Obviously,
I have tried to seek out law enforcement. Any agents you go to, you file reports. So if these people you work with and trust, eventually goes to the DOJ for investigation for filing. And it won't go very far until it gets back to Ron. There has to be something, something besides that channel to explain everything, to show the rest.
But
Question.
but have you talked to the DC police? I mean, they're not federal, so it wouldn't go back to the DOJ.
Question is, have you talked to the DC police?
I have not, but I'm sure it would in some fashion.
Have you ever tried to reach out to the parents?
So you're interested in talking to the DC Police if they approach you, if Jack sets that up and they approach you?
Well, there's no mistake. You need safety of some type. This has already gone far into dangers of not this particular conversation, but exposure has already happened. So we do have to be careful. I would not relish talking to any legitimate investigator, especially if there's protection involved. So we should.
I guess Scott's question is, if we could set up a clandestine meeting with the DC police where you would be, no one would know it was occurring, when or where, et cetera, would you be willing to do that? That's the question.
Yes, if
Why do you-
it was safe.
Okay?
Why do we expect the DC police would investigate anything now? For 2 years, they seem to be suppressing the investigation. They wouldn't seem to have any interest in meeting
Well,
the
that's probably
witness.
more a question for me than Luke. I agree with you. I think you're right. I mean, it's just, my belief, for what it's worth, is that this thing's gone into the cold case file. It goes back to the lawsuit we filed a year ago. I can't imagine why anybody would resist on the ballistics report. I mean, if the police have their heart in solving this case, and you have all these people working to help, why would they resist on ballistics and even the medical examiner's report? It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
And Jack, why have you taken such a personal interest in this case?
Oh, really just from what I said at the outset, and that is that I view us all as one big political fraternity. I mean, Seth may have been a far left-wing Democrat, I'm a far right-wing Republican, but this could have happened to any one of the young men or women who work for me. And we're one big family in DC, and I just feel a compulsion to help. I have to do some good for the world.
I think that sort of reneges the question of, if you have a witness who's willing to talk to DC police, why are you talking to press first?
Well, it goes back to the other gentleman's question here, in that we just, all of us involved, we have tried extensively to, even after the lawsuit, I have tried to work with them. It's just, unfortunately, the chief of police and the mayor are done talking to me. We have tried. Trust me, we have tried. It's on their end, not our end. I'm happy to sit down with them anywhere, anytime, any place, to share what we have, to work with them. I'd like to see the other video. I'd like to see ballistics. We'll work with them in any way, shape, or form. We would love to. You have to put those questions to the chief. It's his decision.
If you're saying that these two people were involved and you're saying you're already in danger, what's the reason at this point for not just giving their names?
Did you hear the question? Look, the question is, if you say you're already in danger and you're giving these 2 or 3 people who were involved, the reporter would like to know, why do you not give their names now?
The danger. They are geographically close to myself.
To you, I see.
Yes.
Okay.
And they are nasty. So there's no reason to go like that. And protection could be easily arranged.
I mean, I think from my point of view, just as a lawyer, I mean, Lord knows I haven't practiced law in a long time, as you guys know, but if you presume that the witness is telling the truth, and we certainly think he is, if you assume that, then the reasons he would fear for his safety are quite obvious. You're dealing with bad feds. I mean, one of the things that I've come upon in this case and other things, it's becoming clear to me that a big problem in the law enforcement bureaucracy and intel bureaucracy and other parts of the U.S. government bureaucracy is that the government works out of necessity with too many people who have been on the other side of the law. And now you're seeing with Seth, we're bringing too many bad people into government because, take the DEA. They can't chase the Mexican drug lords unless they get people who know that scene and have been involved with them, etc. The agency does the same thing. This is becoming a big problem in the United States, I think.
Luke, Alex Nazarian, Yahoo News. Did you know these gentlemen, these two, alleged perpetrators beforehand? And in general, how did you come upon this information? It seems odd that they would be discussing a plot like this in a way that an outsider could hear it.
Not an outsider. I've known them for several years and worked with them just as long.
But they would discuss this openly, or sort of with knowing that you were aware of the plan but not involved in it?
Yeah, because of what everyone else was doing in this group. This was, like I said, the core group, comfortable discussing anything, bragging about it. So my role was on the other side of it, but it was the same group. So yes, they were comfortable with it. So into each other's homes, just that level, getting further into it.
Let me kind of anticipate the follow-up question from the reporter here, and that is, if you, I lost my train of thought.
But did they ever ask you to become involved in this?
No, this was done on their side. They're okay. Like I said, I specialize in the terrorist side of things,
Oh, it came to me here, it finally comes back to me. Why would they be comfortable? Why do you surmise they would be comfortable in bragging?
One, because they're dumb enough to do it, but because it's just a small group. The things that we normally discuss, the other crimes that they were perpetrating, this was not even the largest. We got sound cold. You're talking about people who are engaging in money laundering, espionage, solicitation, treason. So this was not the top of the list.
Are you saying these people may have been involved, or indeed you know they were involved in other kinds of crimes?
Yes.
Can you,
How they came under the purview of Ron Rosenstein, because they've done this throughout their career. They've been in trouble with their own departments. They were long ago and out of the agency had certain things happen, kept them in deck. They're beholden to them.
Jack,
Other questions?
We've had these periodic bursts of information about Seth Rich that often seem to coincide with other really significant events. We had Mike Flynn at a status hearing this morning. We've got Peter Strzok testifying on Thursday. Why did you choose the second anniversary of the death to release this information?
well, we did it to honor Seth and his family, because I felt the second anniversary would be an appropriate time to do that. That was the reason for my choosing. I chose this date a while back.
But you said the family is unhappy with you. Why do you continue to do things to...
Oh, because they're not my guiding light. I mean, I want to solve this, and I have to push on until I do.
Jack, this has been seized on by a lot of adherents of the QAnon conspiracy theory. Are you aware of that? Does Luke have any thoughts on that as an intelligence operative?
Luke, the question was as to the QAnon theory, which I know very little about. Any thoughts on your end?
I don't have the few little things that I've seen from them that deal with Ron Rosenstein or something within my view were not necessarily correct, interpreted incorrectly from what I knew, so I didn't give it any attention.
Additionally, Jack, you're known as a pretty publicity-savvy, perhaps, guy. You're always throwing press conferences. What would you say to people who say, look, this is just Jack Berkman trying to promote his own career, frankly, off a dead young man, despite the family's wishes, by the way?
I understand why people would say that, but I just have to push on. Like I said, the press are our partners. We need your help. It's only through press coverage that we can go A to B to C to D. Hopefully from today's coverage, we'll get somebody else come forward, and somebody else come forward, somebody else come forward. That's the way this has worked from the beginning. With a case like this, I don't know any other way to do it. My initial thought, was that a reward would be enough, and I encouraged others to do rewards, and they did. It got up over, I think it's 455,000. My initial thought 2 years ago is that would be plenty, and this thing will solve quickly, because initially I thought the DC police were right. When no one came forward, and this thing clearly moved into the cold case file, I had to look at other theories.
Okay, I have a question. Luke, this is a question for you. I'm Manuel Franzi with the Washington Post. I wanted to go back to Will's very first question, which I thought was a very good question, which I don't think was really answered. I'm a little bit puzzled about why you think anyone would believe you. And therefore, I was hopeful that you might provide us with some piece of information, some document, or something else to support the claim that you have special information about this.
I understand. Like I said over the phone, it'd be difficult. Once this is investigated by someone, it's easy to find me. It's easy to find me in the documents. It's easy to find me working with these people, standing next to these people. It's easy to do. Difficult over the phone. Place of their safety and there's an official investigation. It'd be very simple.
I think the short answer, Manuel, it's probably more a question for me than him. This is the first part. This is only the first step in a process. We're planning other things. This is the kickoff of this. Like I said, it's not the end, it's the beginning of the end. We're planning other things.
Yeah, it's just, for us to put a lot of credibility into what you're saying, Jack brought up the name him being an attorney and the way that witnesses are questioned, and one of the ways that witnesses are questioned is to establish their credibility. And I haven't heard you say something that establishes your credibility, and I think that's what Will's question was directed at, and it's certainly the question that I think would be paramount in anybody else's mind who's listening to this. And so you're saying that there are documents, and I guess we would say, or I would say, I can't speak for others, show us the documents.
Certainly. I understand, and I will do investigation. Best I can tell you from now on the phone is check the upset. It's easy enough to check, it's easy enough to verify a lot of this. Prove it. Yes, you had to look before and start connecting the dots, but I can't do it without the safety. There's not just myself involved.
And check what?
Check the Russian connection, check the people out, check the information about the murder, how it actually happened. They discuss details, what they did, how he crawled away. I'll tell you if you want to hear.
Yeah.
And, it's easy to verify some of this and go from there. But I can't just spill everything down. I can't reduce my DD-214.
Well, can you give us can you give us details of that night, if you would, as long as I don't, what can you tell us?
I said these are from several conversations with them or in front of them or around them. There were three involved that night. The two were waiting near his home. One was gone. They had been watching on and off for a week and a half to 2 weeks prior to this. They've been waiting for hours. It was getting late. DC wakes up early. They were upset that it had gone so long. They thought this would be sometime in the night. They got the call. He was headed home. They immediately went from half asleep to on adrenaline. The two of them got up. They approached him from behind. Did a normal stop. Get on your knees, cross your ankles, hands behind your head. You couldn't identify him. Couldn't make sure they had the right person. We're covering from behind. The other one approached up with his right side. They had to get almost even with him because his arms were behind his head. We got him almost even with him. They got his head turned. They looked at him. They shot at the ribs. Fell to his left. He tried to scramble away. They definitely many family maybe listening, tone it down, but then they ridiculed him, sexual manner of being on his knees and dying on his knees. Before they shot him again. I don't know where that one was. Went over, took thumb drive, left. From there I went to the computer expert. After that.
They boasted about all these details?
It was multiple conversations. The ones they talked mostly about were how he tried to crawl away, how it was pathetic, on his knees, that type of thing.
You just
And
said,
again, can you tell us what was on that thumb drive, please?
I don't know what was on the thumb drive. I don't know if they were able to get into it, or I know the first person they took it to either could not get into it, or couldn't get what they wanted off of it because it went to the computer expert I know. And I don't know what was on it.
Now, Luke, let me ask you a question to follow up here. Did they, this is Jack, did they take the thumb drive from him after they shot him?
Yes, rolled him over, took it out of his pocket. Patted it down, took it, left.
I see.
Jack?
I heard you, I think, say that you had taken a polygraph regarding the matter. Can you expand on the circumstances of that?
This was prior to providing information about myself and about this we're discussing to the House Intelligence Committee. But there was more than one and passed great scores. They said you put it in a textbook and teach off of it. There was some study.
Now, did you, just to the extent you can say, did you discuss this matter of Seth with the House Intelligence Committee? Yes, okay.
Jack, let me check the battery, make sure it's on.
You don't wanna lose, we're having
Jason.
technical difficulties here, bear with us, Luke.
Jason.
Jack, so many of the people involved in this story have been involved in lawsuits. Ed Batowski suing Rod Wheeler, hiring Rod Wheeler. What's your involvement, if any, with Ed Batowski?
None. I think I talked to him once long ago, but that's, I don't really know him.
Why do you think he's so interested in this matter?
You know, I don't know. I know in the lawsuit, I believe in the Wheeler lawsuit, there's some mention of me related to that, but I don't really know what it is. I honestly haven't followed that stuff. I'm the wrong person to ask.
So,
I can answer that question if you
Tell
want.
me.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
Frank, go ahead, please.
I don't wanna get into details, but, you know, America First Media and a number of other people are getting sued by the Rich family and, Brad Bauman. The suits are online, you could read them. That's, you know, that's the nexus of why they're suing. And, we really can't discuss that at this time, you know, for obvious reasons.
Hey, Luke, can you again explain what you think they thought was on that thumb drive? You talked about Seth discovering federal workers manipulating emails.
No, not exactly. Whatever he discovered, something with the election test, which I don't know. But when he scooped up all those emails, basically downloaded, I read big fortune, it set off all the alarms that they had in place. And to them, it looked like an investigation. They wanted to know who, why was it disclosed, that type of thing. So they started the surveillance. But having such a large number of emails that they had altered in some fashion, manipulated, delayed, whatever they did to each one, which is some of them, you can alter the entire tone of how much each one were, or classification. But he had such a large number that if something happened, if that got out, people would be pouring over it, and they could discover the pattern, how it was altered, how it was done. It was too much of a risk.
And you're talking about the emails that he downloaded allegedly from the DNC?
Correct.
There were reports that an FBI van was robbed the same night Seth Rich was killed and that a weapon was stolen from that van. Is that pertinent to Seth Rich's death or how he's murdered?
Not as far as I know.
Following up on that, at least, that may be more of a question for me. I think we were, actually, it was Kevin Doherty who discovered that while he was working for us a year ago. One of the things I said to the chief of police and the mayor is, one of the reasons we desperately need the ballistics report is we need to know if those weapons that were stolen from the FBI, I think 61 minutes before Seth was shot, were the ones used. And that's a big reason why we need ballistics, and no one will help us.
and so are you guys saying that Kevin Doherty was trying to get onto this Rod Rosenstein team and then separately was hired by you, Jack?
Well, I don't, yes, I mean, I think that's a good synopsis of what was said. I'm kind of the unwitting fool. I didn't know, Kevin Doherty had a decent resume, I should have vetted him more. It turns out almost none of it was correct. I still think he did good work for us. Many of you read the 81-page report he did on this. I think it was fine detective work, frankly, and he did a lot of good investigative work. I think what Luke, just a synopsis of what Luke is saying, is Doherty was associated with, trying to be friends with, hanging out with the two people who did this shooting. And so that just leads me to wonder why he joined our team, et cetera, et cetera. Did he plant himself? Did someone plant him there? We don't know. We're looking into all this.
Jack, you'd said that Glenn Seelig had vetted him first. Is that not correct?
Yes, but I don't know, that's true. He initially came to Glenn, who's sadly no longer with us. But there was some vetting done. Obviously, it wasn't enough. And I don't think, my personal feeling is none of his resume is true, but I don't know that.
Do you think this has to do with how Glenn got killed?
We don't know. I just don't know. I wish I knew, Lisa. Unfortunately, I just don't know. I don't know.
Can I add something? I
Please.
just wanted to add something regarding Doherty. Doherty, around July 7th, contacted members of America First Media Group and was in dialogue after he was let go by Jack to try and get into our group after that. And that's what kind of piqued our information when he was arrested for, by the Arlington police, for shooting Jack. It set off all bells to us. And one other thing, there's a phone call from Cy Hirsch on America First Media's site, which he has some kind of a source. He's a Pulitzer Prize-winning author. He says that Seth was killed for what he found out, not for what he took.
I've got to interrupt you. I met with Cy Hirsch personally. He told me that recording was made without his knowledge. He had had a few drinks, and it was not representative of what he actually said that night. Ed Butowski made that recording, and there are other recordings of Rod Wheeler that Ed Butowski has made that I detected audio editing in.
Well, I'm just saying what's out there. Whether you dispute it or not, that's for you guys to do.
Right.
I'm still confused about the polygraph, Luke. Who had you take the polygraph, when, why? And if you have the results of that, I guess that would be another document we would want to see.
Can you speak to that, Luke? Was it House Intel? Is there anything you can tell Manuel of the Post about that?
It was, thank you, it was prior to giving the information to House Intel. It's in relation to a previous case I had started, worked on, and went from there into, referred and dealt with some of the issues that touched on what these people were doing. So because it was unusual, I was polygraphed on everything.
Can you tell us, are you comfortable telling Manuel who polygraphed you?
Secret Service.
U.S. Secret Service.
Is there a way to verify that?
The follow-up question is there a way to verify that?
I'm sure House Intel has it. I don't want to keep relying on that like I'm dodging a question, but it is available. They have it.
Now, let me ask you this, and again, don't answer anything you're not comfortable answering. We first and foremost, your safety, your family's safety, but tell me, Secret Service, can you tell me how they were involved with House Intel, and is there anything you can say in broad strokes about that?
They help with some of the computer things. So,
Okay.
they help for some of the computer items I was talking about.
I see.
They have a very good system.
Luke, quick question. You said the night of the murder, the assailants became frustrated with how long it took to actually get a hold of Seth. Seth was a known drinker and bar hopper. Why would they have been frustrated knowing that he was going to go from bar to bar?
I don't know if he drank or not.
He was on the street by 1:45 that night. That's not late for a drinker.
Okay. They were frustrated more of having to wait at his home for hours.
You said they followed him for 2 weeks.
Off and on, yes.
He was a known nightly drinker.
Okay.
They would have known his program. No?
I don't know. Did they? Were they
Well, if I followed you for 2 weeks, I'd know your program.
All right. I can't answer that.
Okay.
Questions?
Jack, I have a question. I realize it's been going on for a while. Luke, what are these noises in the background? There's like a lot of like scuffling. I'm wondering, are you in like a strange location? Are you like hiding, or what's up?
You can start hiding, just for safety. The noises you hear are, they actually work type of security right now. So you hear an automatic door.
Thank you.
Hey, Luke, previously you said you were at work, so you are at work, or where are you at?
Yes.
When's the last time you've been in contact with the two alleged murderers?
The alleged murderers,
Three.
about a year. The other people involved, 3 or 4 months. One of them, 2 weeks ago.
I'm puzzled about something else, Luke. You said that you don't want to poke these people by identifying them by name, but you're being recorded by many people. Your voice is now going to be readily available on the had contact with them within the last 2 weeks. How is that any different than identifying them by name? And wouldn't you be putting yourself at just as much danger by doing this news conference?
Actually, more danger, because if he identified them by name and came forward, everybody would know who he is.
It's possible. I knew that this conference wasn't without danger. It's been dangerous all along, but without getting it out there, without getting House Intelligence moving or someone official investigation, there's never going to be a resolution. It'll just stay this incredibly tense, dangerous situation. So,
Luke, did you think about using a voice scrambler
Too late
for this
now.
interview? Are you on a voice scrambler?
doesn't matter.
Sure it does.
Well, I think.
Does he know what
If I
to
get my perspective is, what I would say is, I think Luke has a passionate desire to do the right thing. I think that's what's driving it.
Following up on what Jason said, wouldn't you be safer making your identity known and doing a public press interview and naming these people? Because then if something happens to you, everybody knows who you are and you come out in a public way. I mean, isn't it more dangerous to not do that? And if something happens to you now, we can't verify you, we don't know who you are.
People do know who I am. House Intelligence knows who I am. And coming out publicly, you said if something happens, then what? You can identify the body? It's done what we can. Trying to get awareness, we're trying to get people to step up, ask for an investigation, ask for something official, get House Intelligence moving. None of this is without danger.
Right, but Jack has, what do you say, $400,000? He could hire some security, right?
No, well, it's not.
Put him on a
400's
plane.
Not mine.
Yeah.
105 of it's mine. 455 is the total amount
Well,
going through.
105 is enough to hire private security for a while.
Well,
For a
look,
long
we-
time,
We've
actually.
talked to Luke about those things. I think here's the bottom line. I'd certainly be willing to make an effort to protect him and his family. The bottom line is, I think he has legitimate security concerns through all this, as anybody would. As anybody would.
What's the status with the House Intelligence Committee in Congress, and why aren't they acting? What's the status of that?
Good question.
I would like to know. I'd very much like to know.
Luke, did you know anything about the, he's no longer in Congress from Texas, Blake Farenthold? Wasn't he going to start a group, or rather an investigation?
Question is, Blake Farenthold, who recently left Congress, he's a member of member of the House from Texas, had some, and the question is, do you know anything about his involvement in the Seth case?
Can I ask one more?
Sure.
I'm not with the press officially. I used to be a stringer for the Prince George's County
That's okay.
Sentinel, but I am a member of a Facebook group that cares a lot about justice for Seth Rich. And I've seen I know a lot about you, Mr. Bergman. My name is Shoshana. What about post-murder of Seth Rich research, like hospital records at Washington Hospital Center, police records, the fact that the head of police, the woman, she resigned right after the murder of Seth Rich. That seems suspicious to me. And I used to know one of the heads of surgery at Washington Hospital Center because when he was an emergency surgeon at Suburban, he gave me an appendix, took out my appendix. And I know who he is, and I've been trying to get in touch with him, and he will not return my phone calls. He's now at Montgomery General in Albany. Would that be fruitful to try to talk to him to see if he knew if there was any political garbage going on with why they won't release the records at Washington Hospital Center? Because of, I've been studying this a long time. Perhaps politically, people like Podesta's wives are on boards of hospitals in Washington, and the society business part of Washington. I'm not part of that. They have to keep quiet because of that. Or benefits to the DC police they have to be muffled in giving out records because benefits to certain police officers who are about to retire could be jeopardized. I'm very diamond in the rough about what I'm saying.
I think just a series of questions from Shoshana, a bunch of questions wrapped up into one. Good questions about asking whether you know anything about his medical treatment the night he was shot. Do we know anything about the doctors? Do we know anything at all about what happened happened after he was shot? Is that something you?
Webcams too, why aren't they being released?
Do you know
That's
anything
terrible.
about, do you know anything about after he was shot?
Only that they had taken the thumb drive to their expert left the area. Anything happened to the hospital or anything, I don't.
Where did they take the thumb drive?
Where did they take the thumb drive, the question is?
To their computer expert.
To, to their computer expert.
How about the FBI?
Question is, did they share it with the FBI? Did they give it to, what law enforcement did they share it with?
The thumb drive?
Yes.
Themselves, they didn't need any. I mean,
Yeah, because, in other words, because
the
they,
thumb drive, they just killed someone to get
yeah,
the FBI.
I think the answer is Luke's perspective is they were afraid of the contents of this, and that's why this occurred.
What kind of documents do you have that's gonna substantiate your claims? What kind of documents?
Oh, there are photographs, either people or cases, me and them working together, documents along those ways, phone calls. I document all. A list, an idea of overall everything has been turned over to House Intelligence as well.
Do you have recorded conversations, that you might have had with these alleged murderers?
The question from Alicia is, do you have recorded conversations with any of these people? I don't think can you say that, Luke? I don't think we heard you, sorry. Oh, I see, sure. No comment on it.
Jack, what do you say to people who call you a conspiracy theorist?
You know, the word conspiracy is much overused. I'm just looking at facts, looking at data, trying to solve this murder any way we can. I'm just a lawyer looking for evidence.
I get that, but there are people who are not, they're not just persuaded by the facts, they're not persuaded by the way that you're stringing facts together and figuring motives. I mean, how do you dig a little deeper? Tell me why this is important to do outside of MTV.
Well, I think it's pretty simple. My belief is they're just not doing anything, and it's an important issue, and somebody has to do it. So we're doing it. I don't know that it's any more complex than that. I mean, I think, like I said, from my point of view, it could have happened to any one of the many people who work for me, Democrats and Republicans, and I have both. And so, for that reason, I want to do some work.
You're still working with the profiling project?
Yes, it's now called the Profiling Investigative Center, but yes, that's my group. Correct.
You being aware, are you subpoenaed to subpoena records?
I wish I had subpoena power, but I'm not a judge. I wish I had, if I had subpoena power, I would use it. I wish I could. We sued the city.